Hi, my name's Gillian, and if you haven't heard already, I'm married to James Shaw. But he's not here. I'm so sorry. He had to go back to the US. He's very busy working. I live in the UK, and he's left it up to me to introduce these videos to you that we shot recently to launch our brand new website. You can go check it out. It's live now, www.ridefromwithin.com. And on the homepage of our new website, we make a very bold claim, and that is that Ride From Within brings forth a brand new paradigm in riding. And in case you don't know what a new paradigm means, I looked it up, and the top answer in Google is new findings that completely change the way people think about or interact with something. And that is absolutely true for Ride From Within. And like I say, we don't make that statement lightly. And we've created these 3 interviews to explain the 3 different aspects that we see that Ride From Within brings forth a new paradigm. And these 3 weave together to create a unified whole new way of being with your horse, predominantly in the saddle, but in the ground as well. This is the 3rd interview in our 3-part series, and in this one, James goes into a very elusive area that pretty much no one else talks about, and that is the rider's mindset. And I, for one, know how important it is. My attitude when I'm riding hugely affects my horse. And so James goes into the art of presence and how if we're present in every moment, we can't be thinking. We can only be feeling, which is absolutely where your horse lives. So you can meet him or her there. It's very exciting. It's absolutely far-reaching in its scope and depth. I do hope you enjoy this interview as much as we enjoyed doing it. Thank you for watching.
So we've been talking about Ride From Within and how it brings a brand new paradigm to the riding world, all the different ways that it does so. We've talked about the old paradigm of strength and leverage versus the new paradigm of receive and redirect. We've talked about the rider taking responsibility, the new paradigm for the rider's part in the horse's movement,
Yes.
and how we can move our pelvis is different to be more like the horse and join them in their world, bringing forth a new paradigm. And this time, well, it's right from within, let's face it. All these things are an inside job. And there's one area, in my experience, that nobody really talks about, and that's the rider's internal reality, or what we're thinking.
Oh, like your mindset.
Your mindset.
Yes.
So, Ride From Within brings forth a new paradigm in our mindset. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think the mindset, if you will, is the mental state in which you approach riding. Well, it's the mental state in which you live this life. Meaning, you can still have a mindset of force and leverage, strength and leverage, even though it can be very subtle and, if you will, agenda-based, like how this agenda. And if I can't just use force against force to make it happen, then we get very creative. We use leverage in the sense, strength and leverage. If I can't use just pure strength, overpowering something, then I have to use leverage. And we do that in our mind. We do it in how we approach, how we interact with horses. And not in a bad way all of the time, because certainly we want to go for a trail ride. The horse needs to be safe. It needs to go where we want to go, and come back when we want to come back. All those things are not the agenda I'm talking about, but it's this idea that I'm going to ask the horse nicely for something, with an aid, let's say, and this is the physical part in the saddle. I ask nicely with an aid. If it's not successful, then I might ask a little louder, and then I start to tell. So that's the agenda. I'm telling the horse what to do. Totally get it. Until we get what we've already talked about, this physical becoming one with the horse. using our body in a receive and redirect state as opposed to strength and leverage, then we have a new language.
Right.
I think the challenge and why nobody's been able to really crack it yet is because if we don't have a different form of communication, physical communication with the horse. In the saddle, we've joined centers, it's bigger and stronger than we are. We have to be able to clearly communicate by receiving and redirecting to then not have this agenda that I'm going to use force to make my outcome, to create the outcome I'm looking for. So it becomes a mindset.
Now, can I just say at this point that, again, a lot of people would be, well, I'm not like that. I think we're talking, are we, about unconscious? Most of this goes on unconsciously. Is that fair to say, that people don't set out to ride with force? They're not aware that they're using force. So is it fair to say that this
Yes,
happens?
much of it's unconscious. Absolutely unconscious in our approach. It's a belief system, right? We can say it's a belief system that's not questioned because it's unconscious.
Right.
And I know all of us love our horses.
Of course.
There's no doubt, right? There's no doubt. But you can love them and be quite harsh with them, right? In your physical movement. So not that we just need to be clear. And until you feel, the horse moving off a rotating femur bone, totally changing underneath just a slight rotation, conscious rotation in the femur, and it changes. Before you know that that's available, you don't have any other way to communicate with the horse, which supports this unconscious agenda of, yes, I'm kind and loving to my horse, but it needs to go where I tell it. It's that kind of an approach. Or it often shows up in frustration when they don't do, and I'm speaking, let's say, in the saddle, because it just simplifies it. In the saddle, I ask him to bend left. He doesn't bend left. I know he can bend left. I see him do it all the time. I'm pretty sure I'm asking the right way. The horse doesn't bend left. I get a little frustrated. And it's in that frustration that we use more strength and leverage, because we don't have that alternative. If we have an alternative, we always look to ourselves and not the horse.
And the frustration, the root of the frustration is having an agenda, you will bend left, but no alternative to getting to that outcome except the use of force.
Yes.
You're saying Ride from Within changes that paradigm by giving you an alternative, and that changes the way that you approach, or does it open the door to a more compassionate and less easily upset or less easily frustrated mindset in the rider?
Yes. Compassion comes from absolutely knowing yourself. Compassion doesn't come from knowing other, having compassion for your horse. It's having, I believe, this understanding that if I ask the horse to do something, I am 100% clear that I am asking in a manner that they can answer clearly, meaning receiving the power and redirecting it, as opposed to using force.
And in this paradigm, if the horse does not produce the outcome or do what you're asking, then absolutely it's
Yes, it's me. So in that millisecond, absolutely right. In that millisecond that the horse doesn't say bend right, I don't, in my mind, with like in 400th of a second, my mind goes, oh, he's not doing it. Or I go, must be me. And then I check me out. And I usually, 99% of the time, from that mindset, from that expanded awareness of the right brain, I go, oh.
Because in Ride from Within, all aids and influence comes from the rider's body.
Yes.
Not from the use of external aids, the leg and the hand.
Right.
So when the horse doesn't bend and we ask it to, it is absolutely our fault.
Yeah, and in this discussion, the way it's framed, it's like it's as constant as gravity. My body is telling the horse every moment where to put its feet,
Right.
how to hold its head, what kind of tension it should have in his back. Whether I'm aware of that or not, it's a constant telling the horse, not asking, telling.
Right.
Because it's unconscious. As soon as we become conscious of ourselves and start to develop the feel and sensitivity to know exactly where your weight is in ounces, not pounds, knowing where your bones are because you feel the bone, not because you feel muscle tension. And when we develop this ability, we become so clear, oh, that's what my body is telling the horse. And that clarity and that being so present that things expand and slow down in the mind, we feel more. It's from that mindset and that awareness that compassion comes. But along with compassion, it's a clear statement, it's a clear ask, and they always respond with a yes. Okay, I'll bend this way now because I can. Or if we don't know all the things the body is telling the horse, that's contradictory to what the mind or the ego wants. You know, it's not enough just to sit in communion with your horse. Most of us want to ride.
To do something,
Yes.
yeah. So can you give us an example? Can you give us a clear example of where in the old paradigm you ask your horse using external aids, the result or the agenda that you have doesn't happen and we get frustrated because we blame the horse. Can you give us an example where that's the case, and give us the scenario when we're using the alternative?
Sure. Let me think of one about. So I think we can use trot or walk. Even better, walk, because it's slower, simple, more simplified to talk about. So I asked the horse to walk forward with some life, some energy, let's say. A nice forward, if you will, working walk, to use the, common language. Yes? So I put my leg on, the horse takes a couple strides forward energetically, and then it gets lazy and it slows down, and then I have to put my leg on again. Right? So he clearly knows when I put my leg on to go forward and walk nicely, and I'm right there with him, but then it slows down, gets lazy. So in this scenario, I'm constantly having to remind the horse, ask the horse, tell the horse, walk, keep walking. Well, what we may be unaware of is that it's very clear when you use your leg, the horse says, yeah, okay, I'm going forward. What is unclear is the tightness and the blocks that are created to that forward or upward movement through the rider's body that keep the horse from efficiently moving forward.
Right.
So we have these unconscious blocks in our body. We don't know about them.
Right.
They show up in the horse. We don't know it. We ask them to go forward. They move forward off the leg, and then within 2, 3 strides, 4 strides, they slow down. We think it's the horse.
We think it's the horse, of course.
And we don't look to ourselves to go, oh, it's a block in me. When we make this shift, this new paradigm, if you will, and I like the word shift of paradigm, because I don't think paradigms change.
Overnight.
On Tuesday, I was doing it this way, and Wednesday, I'm in the new paradigm. So it's this shift. When we shift our awareness and our thinking through our experience, our feel, we can go, oh, I asked the horse to go. My back tightened up, and I only got 2 or 3 strides. Now I'm going to keep my back open. I'm going to keep that flow going, no tension. I ask for the horse to walk on. I receive it up into my skeleton. I feel that, and I get 10 strides of that energetic walk before they change. So that's a really good example. And if we are not always looking to ourselves, which we talked about in the last talk was, or discussion, was our responsibility, that we now, it's not frustrating because we have the tools to do it that we didn't know we had prior. When we have these tools and this expanded awareness, we'll start to catch ourselves thinking with force, right? We'll start to catch ourselves going, oh, I'm driving to the barn, and I'm already in this agenda of, he's going to trot that 20-meter circle to the left today. That's what we're going to work on. We're going to make it happen. We start to catch ourselves. And that mindset, which is mostly, well, completely left brain and an ego-driven mindset, that I have this goal, which goals are fine. I have this goal, I have this agenda, and I have this path laid out on how to achieve it. That mindset is limiting, right? It might be a great mindset. I mean, it might be, yes, this is what I want to do. Again, I have a horse so I can ride it, not so I can feed it and muck it, I want to have more than just communion, as I said earlier, with the horse, right? So that mindset of the agenda, I've got to get this, which is throughout our life. It's not just in riding, right? I'm going to go to work today and get this done. Rarely does that happen. And then we get frustrated and we start using leverage or coercion or whatever we need to get a result. So if we can be present more in the right brain, where everything I need is present in the moment, which is a little out there, but not when it applies to, let's say, this walk. I'm in the moment. The walk is slow. I'm connected. I'm not in my mind, my left brain, thinking this walk's got to be bigger and faster for it to be correct. No, I'm in this moment. I put my leg on, and as I'm putting my leg on, I'm aware, oh my God, my back tightened up. I leaned forward in anticipation of the bigger movement, which is going to enhance the block in my back and only get 4 steps. With this mindset where we are going to walk better, I can still be present. So when I put my leg on, I'm as aware of being open to receive that bigger force in my body as I am the actual movement of putting the leg on for asking it. So that's a product of being present.
Yeah, so I'm getting the picture that in the old paradigm, there's so much mental chatter that arises, negative mental chatter that arises out of believing that there's a certain outcome that you want that you're not getting, and the frustration comes in. So there's a lot of mental chatter then that will limit the rider before she's even got going. And I'm seeing that in the new paradigm of staying present in every moment. That chatter just doesn't even come into it because you're present to what's happening rather than to the thinking that is blocking you.
Yes, exactly. I just had this thought that we talk about 2 brains in the Chinese system, the internal arts that this came from. The Yi mind, which is the spirit brain, the right brain, if you will, and the Shen mind, the thinking mind, right, the left brain. It's in the right brain right? That yi mind or spirit mind, where feel and sensitivity are developed, where they come from. And I believe electrically where it comes from is that part of the brain. The other side is great for remembering your list of stuff to do, but it's not feel and sensitivity.
Right.
If we're not in the right brain, and if we haven't developed off the horse feel and sensitivity, then that gets replaced by thinking. And it's very apparent in transition. Somebody approaches a transition, and 10 strides out, there's a list of 20 things that they're checking, which is amazing if you have that ability. But it certainly creates tension, and you can't feel when you're thinking.
Right.
Now, I know that sounds kind of black and white, but you cannot feel when you're thinking. So we practice being in the right brain, so we feel things slow down. The more present you are, the slower things move out or moving around you. Time seems to slow down. So that's the mindset that we want to approach. But if we haven't had the experience of feeling more and thinking less, then all we have is the thinking to solve a problem. And all we have in our body is the old strength and leverage model to solve this problem that I know is there and I'm thinking about and I'm trying to fix. The feel and sensitivity or receive and redirect model, we stay in the right brain. And that's a challenge, as anybody knows who tries to meditate and calm the mind. We stay in the right brain, and therefore we have the tools of feel and sensitivity, and we use those as opposed to the tools of strength and leverage.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it's big. It has permeated my life, right? This work, before I ever got to Riders, I could see the applications, or I could see how it affected my life. I'm no longer using strength and leverage to get my outcome. So it really, in a sense, it becomes more about a relationship. And that shift of paradigm has been happening for 20, 30 years in riding, where we move more with the relationship of the horse, keeping them more naturally, having them turn out less like stock than a sentient being. But where I, from my perspective, where I believe the shift hasn't taken is in the actual physical communication with the horse.
Right.
Knowing what your physical body is saying to the horse. Now, there's a lot of work done at Liberty, or if you don't think of it like Liberty, but in hand work, or just, all the work that you're not in the saddle. Your body and your mindset speak as loudly to the horse as if you were sitting on their back. So this mindset applies to, I have a loose rein, or the rope is loose, or can't possibly be using force. But there's the mental force.
I'm with you. So you're saying basically, if you do not have another way in your body, even if you want kinder ways of being, you will always revert to the mindset and the attitude of strength and leverage when you don't have an alternative. No matter how kind in your heart you want to be, you will always revert to what you know if you don't have the alternative.
Yes. And if I may, there's a great example. I have a friend, a client, who does more work on the ground, and Liberty with her horses, phenomenal work, than she does riding. She does both, but much more Liberty. So that's where her mind is. And I was working with her, and one of the horses, when it hit a certain point on a circle, it would fall out on the circle a little bit, and then come back in, and it would always do this. without the awareness that it was actually something she was doing in her body. Very subtle. It was the difference between her shoulder being here and being here. Because at that moment, her mind expected the horse to do it, so she'd look at the horse. And this movement paused the horse, and it fell out. So until she discovered that this, controlling herself, being aware of herself, was the fix, the horse needed more training. Kind and loving, but it was the horse, it wasn't me. So when we, again, it's an example of when we expand our awareness of ourselves, we're absolutely clear. It gives us a deeper level of understanding. Not understanding of the horse, understanding of ourselves. And therefore, when I understand myself better, I can understand the horse better. And I think quite often in the riding world, especially the more, the natural riding world, is we strive to understand the horse more, know the horse better, and we fall short on knowing ourselves better. When we know ourselves better, we know the horses better.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, there you have it. I do hope you enjoyed that fascinating discussion, and I would imagine it will bring up more questions and comments and opinions than maybe any of the other two, and that's great. Let's get this conversation started. You can go to writefromwithin.com to find out a lot more about what we've covered in these 3 interviews. And I do hope across the 3 interviews you've got a flavour of the fact that James Shaw is a genius. I mean, I get it. I'm slightly biased. I am married to him after all, but I'm not alone in that opinion. And like all geniuses, he thinks outside the box, which brings forth a new paradigm. That's what geniuses are generally here to do, and what they actually bring to the world is a brand new way of looking at things. And that's definitely true of James Shaw, and I hope you got a flavour of that. If you did, and you want to learn more from him in person, you can do that best by attending a clinic. And if you go to the website, click on the event schedule, it's on the homepage. It has an icon of its own in the top right hand corner. Click on that and you'll see where he is for the rest of the year. If he is not anywhere near you, you can bring him to you. You can host your own clinic. If you grab a bunch of your friends, that's easy enough to do. Again, details are on the website. If neither of those 2 options work out for you, you can always get a virtual lesson with James. This involves you videoing yourself and sending it to James, and he'll give you a virtual lesson. Now, that may seem like the lesser option, but I promise you it's not. James has an incredible gift of sight. He misses nothing. So video lessons are actually a great way of learning if you can't get to him in person. So again, details on the website. I highly recommend that form of training. Also on the website, you can find his book. You can find some DVDs. And for the first time, we have available the posters that James uses in his very entertaining talks. And we also have a bunch of those entertaining talks. We now have a library of webinars that we've done the past couple of winters. James has given lectures on various subjects, and they are brilliant, great to watch. And so you can buy them now to own. They can be yours to own. Again, check out the website, writefromwithin.com. You'll find all of that in the shop. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you think there's anyone that would benefit from the information in them, please share it. And please like, comment, and subscribe below. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we've talked a lot about a new paradigm, and we're just talking about it. You are the people who are going to make this paradigm shift. We can't make it by talking about it. We make it by actually doing it and creating a new world for our horses to live in, one where they are treated fairly and we are riding in a responsible and more healthy manner. And on behalf of James and I, thank you so much for being part of this together. We will shift a paradigm. Thank you.